Namaste and welcome back to challenge 3. In this challenge, we are going to learn what are the typical challenges with the existing service delivery. But before that, I'll tell you something very interesting that will help you to understand why digital workforce is important in today's context. Since last 2 decades, the organizations are driving their innovation through shared services and managed services model. And it worked for them. The business is able to scale by offshoring the work and reducing the cost. And cost has become the primary parameter for innovation. But in the age of digital disruption, in the age of autonomous car, the instant delivery and delivery drones, the human driven model is not sustainable for the business to create competitive advantage. They need to look beyond the human driven model. And Telexa is not different. Telexa is driving their entire service delivery through contact center, shared services and back office operation, and its purely human driven model is spread across India, Manila and United States. If you look at the nature of the work, it's purely repetitive. So repetitive, highly transactional, rule based activities. So people are doing day in day out, churning out the data, and pretty much the similar kind of stuff is happening 24/7, 365. I'll not deep dive what is repetitive, rule based, transactional. We'll look once we'll get it into the use case. But the typical challenges what Alexa is facing today is having a high cost of operation and per transaction cost as compared to other competitor. The quality issues, because when human works there, people are working manually, they are paying a lot of penalty for compliance and regulatory issue, as well as they are doing a lot of rework work. The cycle time, the customer experience in terms of the cycle time and lead time is high, because whenever there would be a human touch point, always the lead time would be always high. Last but not the least, because the work is highly transactional, rule based, uh, it's a typical contact center work, so people, the iteration rate is very high, and that leads to high hiring and onboarding cost. So these are the typical challenges. But having said that, with all the challenges, with having the managed services contact center in place, the leadership team is highly optimistic about their 2025 plan, and they are forecasting the 3x growth. Once again, I'm emphasizing the leadership team is forecasting 3x growth as of today. So now, when it comes to the decision and scaling the model, that's where the role of project manager comes into picture. You have to think, are you going to replicate and copy paste the same managed services, shared services and contact center model, the 3x? Whatever the today infrastructure and the model exists, simply copy paste, they keep still the human driven the entire mechanism, or optimize your entire operation digitally, drive it digital driven operation. It's all our choices. Being the leader, we have to think hard, human driven versus digital driven, and that's where the project manager role comes into picture. Now think about a moment, if you are going to replicate the human driven model, where simply copy paste the model in India, Manila and Brazil, the 3x human workforce, definitely you need to have the very high cost, because you need to factor the salary, infrastructure and all the cost that will lead to keying errors, the quality issue, because when human touch any process, the quality issue is to be very high. There will be a delay, because human touch always create delays that will hit the compliance issue. Compliance issue leads to revenue loss, because today the financial organizations had paid a lot of compliance fee for delay or lot of the data security issue. And last but not the least, what we talked about, the training and retraining, the cost, because in contact center and shared services work is very boring. People are not very happy. They used to leave very frequently, and that leads to a high training and retraining cost into the organization. These are the typical challenges. Now the here the challenge comes. Imagine you are the project manager, you are the leader in charge, and you have to take the decision. Then how will you scale the entire growth? What will be the strategy in place for you? How may you optimize the contact center? What should be your entire technology stack? How will you imagine the technology so that end to end you should be able to manage your contact center and your managed services? Last but not the least, how can you enable your existing workforce to make them more productive, make them more strategic, so that they can focus more and more on customer rather than having the repetitive and rule based or highly transactional activity. This is the challenge for you to think and think beyond the human driven model. So this is all for today. Tomorrow we are going to learn how to scale with digital workforce, and that's where the role of RPA, digital workforce, and artificial intelligence comes into picture. Meanwhile, stay tuned. In case you like my challenge, just comment or subscribe my channel. You will get a lot of value. Thank you very much.